Hello everyone. Welcome to the, let me try to get my stream up so I can see it in the background. There we go. Hello everyone. My voice is a bit quiet. Close my window. Make sure that my audio is actually being recorded. Everything around the computer is working. So let's play this video again.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode. Okay. Welcome to another video. Thank you for joining in.
So today, this is the last video of the Brandon Chief Atlanta Draw Guide. So I'm going to be finishing this today, and then I'm going to be trying to draw something from New Zealand. All the concepts I learned, I'm going to be trying to draw a probably just some sort of background or some sort of scenery from Google Images, and then we're going to see how that goes. So yeah, that's going to be the plan. Let's do that. So this one is about observing edges.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode. Welcome to another video. Thank you for joining in. Today I want to talk about edges and how they relate to values and how it's going to push your drawings to the next level, because, or even your sketches. Because in painting, if you think about painting, and I mostly do painting, edges are what separate the amateurs from kind of the more intermediate painters. So drawing is kind of the same way. Basically the edge of an object, the edge. So if we have a sphere, which is actually a ball, if we had like a tennis ball, real quick tennis ball, real rough tennis ball here.
Okay, so let's draw a ball.
And that's sitting on something. So you kind of have like, you know, make it a little more 3D. If you have light coming from over here,
so that's how you
from the left, you have a light source.
On top of it.
Well, the shadow, we've already gone over stuff like this, but this is going to demonstrate my point a little better. So the shadow is going to be over here, obviously, on this sphere. Something like this. Real quick, anyway. So this is the shadow side. This is the light side now. When edges come into play is when you have the values, when the values start getting closer. So the background is also, we'll say it's a dark background. And this shadow side is going to be really dark. So it's going to make that light pop right here, this edge. It's going to be a really sharp edge. So it's going to make that light pop right, and this shadow side is going to be really dark. So it's going to make that light pop right here, this edge. It's going to be a really sharp edge due to the darkness of the background and the lightness of the background. When the values start getting closer, so the background is also, we'll say it's a dark background. And this shadow side is going to be really dark.
That shadow's got to be really dark. Okay, so
it's going to make that light pop right here, this edge. It's going to be a really sharp edge due to the darkness of the background and the lightness of the sphere. So what happens here?
Light and then this goes darker. That's just the sort of thing.
Just by observing this, you can set up a still life, you can set this up yourself and just observe this. But what happens is these edges, you can see, became a lot softer, and it looks more realistic that way. And why did these edges stop? Just by observing this, you can set up a still life, you can set this up yourself and just observe this. But what happens is these edges, you can see, became a lot softer. And it looks more realistic that way. And why did these edges, see, there's no real defined edge here anymore.
What?
sometimes you lose the edge, sometimes there's going to be a little bit of an edge, and then other times there's a really sharp edge, which defines the brightest bright from another dark. And this is real critical because this becomes your focal area where that light is hitting. That is now the focal area that defines the
So if I were to do this, it would be kind of like, this part would be like kind of dark still, and then this part would be like that, and then that edge is kind of, because of all the darkness of this, this edge is kind of like, you can't really see this edge, even though the way I did it, because I pressed down the
brightest bright from another time. And what edges you can
basically the line of the ball that's sort of making the ball like the thing that gives the ball its ball shape is kind of not really able to be seen that clearly.
So you became a lot softer observing this. You can set up a still life, you can set this up yourself and just observe this. But what happens is these edges, you can see, became a lot softer, and it looks more realistic that way. And why did these edges, see, there's no real defined edge here anymore. Sometimes you lose the edge, sometimes there's going to be a little bit of an edge, and then other times, sometimes you lose the edge, sometimes there's going to be a little bit of an edge, and then other times there's a really sharp edge, which defines the brightest bright from another dark. And this is real critical because this becomes your focal area where that light is hitting. That is now the focal area. You're saying something, you're losing where that light is hitting. This is real critical because this becomes your focal area where that light is hitting. That is now the focal area. This becomes your focal area where that light is hitting. That is now the focal area. You're saying something, you're losing the edges here. You know, it creates this focal area. The eye tends to go to high contrast and sharp edges, sharp lines like that. So the edges usually start to disappear when the values become closer to each other, when the values become really similar. I hope that makes sense to you. So we could say this darkest dark is like a number 10 value. Like if we're doing 1 to 10, 1 being the lightest, this lightest area will be a 1, this darkest area will be a 10, and maybe the shadow side on this ball is like, you know, between a 7 and an 8. So obviously, this shadow on the ball here is much closer to this really dark area right behind the ball. It's going to have something more in common with this very dark area. We'll say this is, you know, behind the ball. It's going to have something more in common with this this are similar. I hope that makes sense to you. So we could say this darkest dark is like a number 10 value. Like if we're doing 1 to 10, 1 being the lightest, this lightest area will be a 1, this darkest area will be a 10, and maybe the shadow side on this ball is like, you know, between a 7 and an 8. So obviously, this shadow on the ball here is much closer to this really dark area right behind the ball. It's going to have something more in common with this very dark area. We'll say this is, you know, the shadow side of the ball, and then this is the light area. Number 7, number 8, right here on the ball has something more in common. It's way closer to this darkest dark. The edge is going to kind of disappear almost. It's going to soften up. It's going to be a softer edge.
I think
so there's soft edges, there's hard edges, and you can see here when you compare a light to this, there's more contrast here between 1 and 10 than there is between 7 or 8 and 10. So there's a definite,
there's more contrast.
You know, these relationships that you're trying to build through your painting and that you're observing through your drawing, and your sketches. You're just observing these. So draw them as you see them. They may not be this dramatic. Let's move on. I'm going to show just another example and something that ball
But
So
there's no
obviously,
contrast between
this shadow on the ball here is much closer to this really dark area right behind the ball.
He's basically saying
it's
this part is
have something
darker,
more in common with this
wider, and because
very dark
this part is dark and this part is
area.
light, more
we'll say this is, you know, the shadow side of the ball, and then this is the light area. Number 7, number 8, right here on the ball has something more in common. It's way closer to this darkest dark. The edge is going to kind of disappear almost. It's going to soften up. It's going to be a softer edge. So there's soft edges, there's hard edges, and you can see here when you compare a light to this, there's more contrast here between 1 and 10 than there is between 7 or 8 and 10. So there's a definite, you know, these relationships that you're trying to build through your painting and that you're observing, or through your drawing, excuse me, and your sketches. You're just observing these. So draw them as you see them. They may not be this dramatic. Let's move on. I'm going to show just another example, and something that a lot of beginners and people that just start out drawing, what they tend to mess up the most is when they're doing portraits, and that's the nose or even the mouth. So if we're drawing a nose on someone, it's going to be, you know, a lot of beginners, they tend to just draw the outline of the nose and the nostrils, and they just draw the whole outline. And you can see that it's not very realistic to draw these sides of the nose and have it, you know, draw all these hard lines, hard edges. That's more of a cartoony look. The nose is very soft around the face. So what you would have to do is blend these out. You have to use your shading techniques that you learned in previous videos and you learned elsewhere. You would have to, instead of creating this hard line, you have to use transitions of softness. And this is...
Okay, I think I get what he's saying. But basically... So this is that, this goes out like this, and this curls into... That goes like that, and then this sort of goes... It's like here, and this goes over here. So I think what he's basically saying is that you can use the sort of shading, and you can use the contrast, and you can use how the eye looks at things to draw things that look a bit better, basically. But yeah, that goes like that. Hang on. Then this goes around this way. And this kind of goes like this. That goes kind of like that. And then these sort of come around like this. And form this sort of thing on top of the water bottle. And then there's sort of like a thing over here, and then this goes over here, and then in the middle. Oh, this is not really proportionate though, but let's try to make that a bit better. So the proportions might have to So there's about an equal amount of size that goes in between each, and then this goes like that. This kind of goes like that. 啊？你要不要早点去啊？啊，现在不想去，等一会儿吧。那你跟我一块去还是怎么着？一起去啊！但是我不是说2点半左右走吗？ So that's like that, and then the inner side goes to around here, and that sort of connects there. And actually over here, this part kind of actually juts out a bit and connects like that. It's really slide. So this part doesn't actually end up connecting, it connects to here, and then this part just juts out like this. I've gotten into the habit of pressing too hard, I think, in my sketches. So now a lot of the time, yeah, that looks kind of good. And then I can add the shading, right? So I would have to add a lot of other details first. So this sort of goes to here, and then this goes to here. And then this layer is way too thick, I think. This would be a lot thinner, so it would probably go like this. Curls to around here like this. And then the second layer would just go up here and be all the way over here and be like this. Even that's a bit too, goes out, juts out a bit too much. It's probably better if it's just like this. Yeah, and then mainly this is kind of dark. You begin to have the shading now, so this is kind of dark towards the side. And then this side sort of goes to here. This one goes to here. And then it's pretty much all the way light over here, and then it gets darker and darker as you go further over here, because there's less light here. So you kind of just go like that. It becomes lighter there. And then this part specifically that is really dark. Like this. And then the top part is all a bit dark, kind of like that. So that's essentially how the shading looks. But then if I were to draw the shadow, because the shadow kind of goes off the page. So if I imagine the table is like here, the rest of the table is like over here. The shadow actually goes all the way off the table. So it pretty much goes all the way from here, pretty much all the way to this aspect like this. And I can make this essentially blend in with the rest of the image by sort of making this shadow and the shading for that. I don't should have cross shading because that's the shading I like to do. All the way over here. this is not very good, so let's move this actually, because we want to make it one constant way, and then we can sort of make the shadow like that, and just like that you can sort of blend in almost, except that's not really, I shouldn't really do that, but maybe something like this, blend in the painting with the rest, or blend in the what's it called, the drawing with the rest of the bottle, blend in the shadow, the shading with the rest of the bottle. And this should technically be probably a bit lighter over here. Okay, and that's the water bottle. It looks a bit kind of hard to see at the top, it looks a bit weird, but I think you can kind of tell it's a water bottle. And I can definitely see that because I've added the blending, it sort of makes it look a bit more realistic, especially the shading, it looks a bit nicer, so that's pretty good. And of course I can add the little thing over here, and I can add the logo, but I'm not going to do that because that's kind of difficult. So this part is dark as well, so I should probably color this dark part in darkly like this. And now, like that. Okay. And then this cross-hatching will be all the way here and then here, and like that. That's kind of how it would look. Oh! Lid is definitely a bit small compared to the actual bottle. This is what the actual bottle looks like. But I can see how I've done essentially the shading. Yeah, I've said this a million times, but I can see how the shading makes it look more realistic. I think yeah, I don't know, this is the bottle I use just to drink water from every day. Believe it or not, I actually care about the environment. I think it's very important nowadays that we try to be as environmentally friendly as possible, which is why I use like this bottle instead of using plastic water bottles every day, or at least I try to when I remember, because fun fact, if we don't care for the environment and we keep sort of doing what we're doing right now, I'm pretty sure the statistic is like we're literally gonna cause the earth to start like burning, and it's gonna be like wildfires everywhere, and there's gonna be like what do you call it, like the seas are gonna rise, and there's gonna be a lot of issues in the future. So not trying to scare you or anything, but it probably is good that we care about the environment, because especially since if we care about it now, we can still sort of fix it. So I think that's a pretty important part of life. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the what's it called, the guide. I'm now going to try to draw something from Google. I'm just going to search up landscape. I'm going to use pretty much every single principle I've learned to try and draw maybe a landscape, maybe a really simple one actually, because I searched up landscape and I came up with some really complicated ones. But let's do this one. Okay, I can just sort of, I can adjust my thing. Which one is it? Great landscape photos. There we go, that one. So I've got that tree landscape up, and I'm going to try and draw it essentially. Hopefully you can see it. Yeah, you can see it. Okay. So let's get a new piece of paper. Oh, I actually need to go to another room to do that, so I'll be right back after I do. back. I ruined the crinkle of the paper a little bit, but that's okay. Where is the... What was I doing? Oh yeah, that's alright. I gotta get the lead, my pencil lead, or pacer lead, because I'm running out over here. Where did I actually put it? Over here? There it is. This is quite old actually. This might be the pacer lead from a while ago. But... Oh yeah, this is empty. This is not what I am looking for. That is it. Wow, I really cannot find it here. Where would I have put it? It's in my room somewhere. Okay. Well, because I can't find it, I do have another pacer, blue one this time. So I'm just going to use that for now. And I'm actually going to finish using the orange one, but I feel like it's going to run out when I use it while I'm drawing today. So I'm just going to use the blue one if it does run out. But yeah, let's get this picture up. This is a picture of a landscape, and let's go through all the principles that we learned before actually. So the first principle we learned was, where is this?
Hey folks, it's Brandon Schaefer. Welcome to the drawing.
Sketching basics and materials. That's just like sketching and the whole thing, so I can do that. Simplifying objects and learning to see. That's splitting object up into parts. Okay, so we can split the object up. We can split this entire landscape up into parts. So we know to the side that there's sort of like a mountain over here, and then there's sort of like the ground here, and then there's a tree here. So that's the three main parts of the object. And I remember in another video, they talked about proportions and how everything has to be really proportionate as well. So I'm going to draw the mountain first, and I'm just going to try to draw it as proportionally as possible to what it looks like in the actual drawing. So it probably goes to like here. It probably goes a little less than that actually. It probably goes only, and goes kind of down as it kind of goes here. It goes only to around here, and then there's sort of like the landscape which comes up from the mountain, like over here, and sort of extends across. It kind of goes a bit higher than that, extends all the way across to around here, and then there is the tree that sort of goes over here, and you can see it sort of starts, it's about probably 1/20th of the size of the entire thing, so like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, that's probably pretty close. I think it's a tiny bit, maybe thicker than this, maybe like here, but it's pretty close honestly. And then, oh, this is gonna be hard doing all the branches of the tree. Okay, so now we can use the technique of simplifying things into simple objects. So there's one branch of the tree that goes down like this, and it sort of goes to the side and goes kind of up like that. I'm probably not going to do all the branches. I'm just going to do all the branches that I can really easily notice. There's another one that goes kind of like this, to the end, and it, as it goes to the end, it sort of splits up into like these tiny little segments. I'm probably not going to do everything perfectly similarly to the actual tree itself, because that's really difficult, but I'm going to make sure the details look kind of the same. There's kind of like a little thing over here, and there's kind of like goes to there, and then this part of the tree sort of goes up into here, where there's a branch coming from here. And then there's sort of like two parts here. One of them goes down into here, and then this goes here, and then this goes to here, and then they branch out from the side like this. The other part sort of curls up into here, goes up like this. I don't think it goes up that high actually, probably only extends out maybe around here. And then this part extends out like that. This part extends out like that. And there's a part that extends kind of out like this. Okay, that's the next branch of the tree. Then the tree, from this point, there's two main branches over here. This one it is a bit bigger than that, so it goes pretty much maybe from here, and it branches out into like two main branches. One of them goes up like this, the other one goes to the side, and it's a lot thinner. This takes so long. I feel like, imagine all the people drawing like anime and animation and things like that. How long must that take? And they have to do it quickly too, because anime is released like once a season. No, not once a season, once every few weeks, like a new anime episode. So I don't know. I watched Shirobako, and I don't know if that's actually how they do it, where they draw the drawings as they sort of go through it, but that would be really, really difficult. As the anime is being made, so they sort of do the drawings and the animation as the anime is sort of being created. But yeah, so that goes to that side, and then it sort of goes down a bit, and then back up, and then there's a part that comes out like this, and then from that branch there's a part that goes up like that, and then there's kind of like a part on the tree that goes around here as well. It's lower than the other part, yeah, it's around there, and it goes kind of to that side, and then this part kind of goes up and down, this kind of goes around like that, and then this part goes out, but then this part goes back out like this, and so this kind of all just flutters out like this way, and then the upper branches. Okay. Oh, I'm pressing way too hard for these, aren't I? So specifically from this branch, there's kind of like a branch that goes down to here, and one of the parts of the branches connects to the other side, and it sort of goes out like this, where it goes kind of up, and then that's one part of the branch, and then the other part goes kind of to the side like this, and this goes to the side like that. The other part, oh wait, where yeah, that's the other part of the branch. I think, wait, yeah, so this, it sort of curls and connects with this part like this. This part of the branch then branches out into tiny parts like this as well, where specifically there are some even tinier parts on there. But then I'm still pressing too hard. I need to press lighter. Yeah, so that's the tree on that side. And then the other part sort of goes up like this. And that goes kind of up to here, and specifically around this part. There's another part that kind of curls around in here like this. And it goes specifically up to here. And there's a sort of connection in between here, then that goes kind of up to there. And then this part kind of separates out into two sections, one here and one here. Yeah, that's how that works. And then there's another part of the branch. That part. So this part that goes like over here. It's actually, yeah, so there's, once that branch goes up, there's one part that goes kind of towards this side, and then there's a tiny branch that branches out from here. But then specifically as it goes towards, wait, is that even right? Hang on. This one goes to there. Oh yeah, this one, that's right. So this one. Oh, this one should overlap with this. So this one should overlap and branch out into these parts here. But then this one should go into sort of branching out like this. And something like that, kind of. This looks so bad. The start looked actually okay, but this, I've somehow messed this part up. It's because there's like 3 separate lines. So there's one here, there's one here, there's one here, and then these essentially branch out to many lines to reach the end like that. So that's that part of the tree. The next part of the tree sort of connects up from this part, so this part branches out over here as well. And from there it goes into one part over here and one part over here. And then that part then branches out into 2 separate parts like this. So that goes there, that goes there. This goes there, this goes here over here. And then this goes over here. This goes over here. And then this part sort of connects up and it goes thinner and thinner into here, where there are essentially 2 parts that intertwine kind of and intersect with each other. And then they sort of make more specific the thinner parts. Okay, and that's kind of what the tree looks like, except I've made this part. Actually, it's not super unproportionate. It's just that this specific part here maybe should be a tiny bit outwards like that. And there we go. That makes it a lot more proportionate. Oh yeah, and there's 2 more parts. So there's a part over here that essentially just connects out and kind of branches out like this. yeah, there's two really small parts that branch out like this, and there's branches there. There's another part that goes from here, and one part branches out like this into small parts. The other part sort of goes into here, and it goes like that. And that's kind of how the tree looks. Let's see, I want to see the comparison. So this is how the tree looks, and this is the tree next to it. Honestly, that doesn't look that bad. It's not perfect. Obviously, a lot of the moving the background, a lot of the details are not like amazingly perfectly accurate, but you can definitely see it kind of is like the same type of tree, and the outlines are the same. So, oh, I closed the background, oops. But yeah, that's not that bad. Okay, and then what about the other parts? So I need to add the shading now, and I need to add the lines and edges and things like that. I don't know if they're called lines and edges. Wait, so let's see the shading techniques. 1 point perspective. Oh yeah, perspective. What would be the important thing with perspective in this drawing? I guess like if the vanishing point was say like over here. I forgot how to do perspective. I'm gonna go back to watching this video just quickly so I
Hey folks, Brandon Sheep.
Know how to do it.
I used to draw like this so much. Roof. And make it a big, so you draw it at this vanishing point. And then, could be and play around with huge
so the
tree. So, if you wanted in perspective. So if we drew it next to this house, the tree would be way out of the, off the top of the page if there was a big tree like that far back.
Oh, okay. So essentially the vanishing point, yeah, it would be somewhere around there. And because this tree is a lot closer than these mountains in the distance, you can think of the mountains as sort of going like, you can sort of think of the tree as going like this actually. And then you can use that as a basis to draw kind of the mountains. So specifically the entire ground should be the vanishing point actually. So if the vanishing point is like here, then I guess the ground would be to like this point here. And then how does he do the trees on the vanishing point? Alright, so the ground is kind of like this entire place here. So in this case the ground is diagonal, so the vanishing point is in the distance. In this case, the vanishing point would be probably around here, and then each one of these would go to this point, and then this would also go down to this point, and that's how the vanishing point would be, because the distance and the horizon in this image is more close to this part of the actual thing than or the thing, the landscape. Okay. And so I don't know, if I wanted to draw like a cloud, for example, I'd have to do it like here, and I would have to do the vanishing point. So if I drew a cloud like that, and if I also drew a cloud like that, those would be two clouds. But I don't understand what would happen to try to remove that. Would this cloud be incomplete here then? I think the vanishing point wouldn't be there actually. I think the vanishing point would be more closer to like here, because this mountain is really small, so if I wanted to do some clouds, I could do like a cloud over here. But that's too low. I don't know, where is the vanishing point in this image actually? Oh, it's probably at like the bottom, at like over here actually, because so if it goes like this, then this goes to here, and this goes to here. But then, how would I draw like a cloud? How would I draw like a cloud? So, I'll open this back.
Hey folks, Brandon Schaefer here, all the way back to...
So if they want to do trees in their image, I closed them, so sad. Where is it? I cannot find it.
You know, if you want far back.
Oh, this is 2-point perspective.
Hey there folks. So, you know, everything that I'm teaching you from now on.
So the mountains are here. Oh, I see. So if the vanishing point is here, I'd still be able to draw clouds up in the distance like here, but it would just have to match with this vanishing point. So specifically clouds over here would be like a lot smaller, but a cloud over here, and it would be behind the tree, so it would be like this kind of. This cloud would be a lot bigger. And then that sort of gives off the impression that the vanishing point is somewhere over here. Okay, that makes sense. So that's what the clouds would look like. And we can see in the actual photo, in the actual image, that does make sense with what's going on, because there's kind of clouds over here and over here. And I think the vanishing point is somewhere around there, probably, because that's where you stop being able to see the clouds. No, I don't know. I think it would be here, maybe? I have no idea. So the vanishing point is somewhere, but basically the clouds disappear in the distance. That's when you stop being able to see the clouds. Okay. And then, what are the other ideas? I still want to, I want to figure out the vanishing point. So, if it was like over here, and these sort of went to this side like this. This sort of went to this side, and this sort of went to this side like this. Yeah, the vanishing point is not, it's not a very far thing, because yeah, it wouldn't be from this part of the tree. It would be from like this part of the tree actually, or like this part of the tree. And then these clouds would have the vanishing point of going to this part as well. And then so if I wanted to do another cloud on the horizon like this one would be a lot smaller. Yeah, so this cloud actually would then be bigger. This cloud, it would be fine to make this cloud bigger. That does not look like a cloud. It'd be fine to make, oh, there's still a tiny bit left. Okay, it'd be fine to make this cloud a bit bigger like that. But that cloud would be small because that's going to the distance. I think this image doesn't really have a vanishing point. Or maybe it does, but specifically the way it's positioned, I don't know why the tree is able to be like this without getting small towards this side. So you can see in the houses. Oh, I think it's because in the houses it gets smaller as you go towards the vanishing point. In this image, yeah, the vanishing point is definitely in the horizon like this. But I think this tree, the way it's taken is so that this tree is a lot closer than this mountain. And so most of it's taken at an angle, so the tree here is essentially the main focus, and it's a lot closer to the camera than this mountain. So the vanishing point, even though for this mountain goes sort of like that really quickly, as for the tree it's really, really slow because the tree is so much closer to you. And the vanishing point, yeah, the vanishing point for the tree is all on like one horizon perspective. And the actual vanishing point is more to do with the background, so it would be more like over here and over here. My pace is about to run out. Anyways, let's move on. I don't know, vanishing points are kind of confusing. They're kind of confusing and they're kind of hard to get, but I think they're not. I don't know, they're probably kind of useful in drawing like anime, so I guess I'll see, but do I have any viewers on my stream? Let's check. No viewers. Okay. Feels bad. That's alright. Next thing is 2-point perspective. It's the same thing. Setting up still life. That's kind of what I did already. Compositional guidelines. Oh yeah, I kind of utilized that. So basically, the idea is like you want to draw things specifically on certain parts of the horizon. You want to split the page up into bits, right? And then draw things on. I kind of drew a tree in this part and a mountain in this part, so that's kind of makes sense with what I did here. If I wanted to do, I could do like another cloud. Yeah, so this cloud would be a lot bigger. So this cloud should be, this cloud would be, a lot smaller. It wouldn't be as small as that cloud, but it would still be not as big. So this cloud would probably only be like that big. I'm gonna switch my peso. This peso has just run out. And then if I wanted to do a cloud here, it would be like really small. It would just be like, or maybe not. Yeah, it would be like that small. So it would be like here, because that's the sort of point where the thing ends. And then that's also tends to be on the point of the compositional guidelines. I don't know what to call it. Okay, values and edges then. I mean, this photo doesn't really have that much shading. I guess there's kind of like a bit down here for the landscape itself. So over here, all of this is kind of like colored in very lightly. And I guess like then you can make this mountain really dark for compositional guidelines. And that sort of adds that idea that it blends in the sort of thing as well. And then for the tree is pretty dark as well. It's like this, but I don't want to color the entire tree in. It's going to take a while. Looks like I don't want to color the entire tree and colors the entire tree in. No. It's okay. Get this here. This over here, over here, over here, like this. This over here. Okay, and then that's kind of like compositional guidelines and sort of light darkness thing. What do you call it? And it's sort of, it's really light over here, but there's kind of like some light thing that's happening here. It's even lighter up here. And then it sort of gets a bit darker down here, but it's still pretty light, so that's essentially a bunch of things that are happening over here. And then, what are some other techniques I could employ into this? Shading, I've done that. Sketching from life, I just did that. Proportion basics. I think that's everything. Alright. This is our masterpiece drawing that we've created based on a real image. Let's see how close it looks to the real image if I compare them side by side. This one here and this one here. Obviously I've made up some clouds, but that actually doesn't look that bad. I kind of like that. Maybe, I think it looks better in the actual recording because the recording image is smaller, and if I make it a lot larger like this, you can see it's not as detailed and there are a lot of messy lines on it, but honestly, from a distance, it kind of looks pretty legit. It looks like a proper drawing made by some artist. Yeah, that's not bad. I'm pretty proud of that. It's pretty cool. Alright, that's going to be it for this stream though. Thank you all for watching. This marks the end of the Brandon Schaefer guide, so next time we're going to start learning how to draw actual, probably more cartoony anime characters. I'm probably not going to draw actual anime characters. Yeah, I think I want to focus on essentially drawing more like what do you call it, more simpler things, maybe like chibi or like really kawaii little sort of animals and things relating to that with just like big eyes, because that's probably a little easier to do. But yeah, thank you all for watching. Today it's a pretty long stream compared to what I usually do, so hope you'll enjoy and see you all next time. Bye!